people, welcome back. Or if you are new here, welcome. As you can see by the intro, I've been to the library. I'll be honest, y'all, I have kind of been like on a library hiatus. I still use my Libby all the time, but I haven't been physically into the library simply because I wasn't reading my books. And I was just going up in there and getting like a bunch of books and not reading them. And yeah, like that's not cute. But I was ready to go back, see what things they had. I found some really good shit, y'all. So if you're interested in seeing what I picked up at my local library, just keep on watching. One of them I already showed you guys in my most recent book in Breakfast. I already finished this book and I had a wonderful time with it. This is Church Girl by Naima Simone. And I thoroughly enjoyed this book. It's very much like Grumpy Sunshine. We have our main character, Aaliyah Montgomery. When we're introduced to her, she is fleeing her own wedding. She runs to her cousin for comfort and help. She realizes that she has not been living the life that she has wanted to live as a PK. She's been allowing her family to control her every move, and that included the person that she was about to marry. And she was ready to finally take ownership of her new life. And so she convinces her cousin Tamara, who has been ostracized for the family because she is a sex worker. She convinces Tamara to let her move with her to Chicago and help her restart her life. She has been accepted into a school in Chicago and she is ready to really figure out who she truly is at her core. And this is how we meet Vaughn. While Aaliyah is adjusting to her new life in Chicago, it's very clear to her that she needs to get some type of income. She doesn't just want to be living off of her cousin, even though her cousin doesn't really care. So she applies for a nanny position. And she has never met this person before, doesn't really know their background, but she discovers upon arrival that he is actually the well-known owner of a very famous tattoo shop in Chicago. When he comes out and sees Aaliyah dressed up and basically her Sunday best, giving all of the Mary Poppins feels, he's like, nah, this ain't gonna work. I don't know where you came from, but you probably need to go back there because you probably can't roll with us. And boy, was Vaughn wrong. Aaliyah consistently showed Vaughn that she is so much more than just a cute little shirt and some kitten heels, okay? Aaliyah is fiery, she is determined, and I found myself by the end of this book being so proud of how she evolved. Now, I will say I feel like the ending of this book was a little bit rushed. There were some other things that I would have loved to see, especially when we get to kind of that third act breakup and resolve, and we have the ex-wife slash baby mama who is really just coming for Vaughn's neck. She's angry, she's bitter, and she's really bitter with herself because of her choices, and she doesn't want to see him move on. But even in the end of the book, we do have her like kind of changing her mind very quickly. I would have loved to see Naima Simone kind of further expand on that. But overall, this was a really, really great quick read. We are going to be getting Tamara's book. I absolutely adored her character. She was so sure of herself. She was so kind and giving and forgiving. And I can't wait to see what it is that makes Tamara Tamara. Like, she is one of the most sought after strippers in Chicago. So she is not without confidence, but I can tell that there is a more layered aspect to her character, and I can't wait to see her get her chance at love. So I am really excited for her book to come out. But if you have had your eye on this, this is a really great quick Black romance read. I've told you guys that the Black romance readathon is afoot. It is going. I need to go ahead and get to reading. One of the options for Tori's tasting menu for the readathon is a book that came out, I think it had to be before like 2020 or 2019, and Miss Beverly Jenkins is going to be at the Black Romance Book Fest, so I had to pick a Beverly Jenkins title. I recently read Captive, I believe it's called Captive, It's the nautical pirate one. That was so good. I found Wild Rain at my local library. You can tell she has been loved. The girlies love some Beverly Jenkins. So I'm excited to get into this one, even though I'm not a fan of reading mass market paperbacks. I will be getting into this. Banished by her grandfather at the age of 18, Spring Lee has survived scandal to claim her own little slice of paradise, Wyoming. She's proud of working her ranch alone and unwilling to share it with a stranger, especially one like Garrett McCrae, who makes her second guess her resolve to avoid men. Garrett escaped slavery years ago and is now a reporter in Washington. He's traveled west to interview Dr. Colton Lee for an article, yet it's Lee's fearless sister, Spring, who captures his interest. Clad in denim and buckskins instead of dresses, she's the most fascinating woman he's ever met, and he's certain she also feels the connection that sizzles between them. But when a shadow from Spring's past returns, all is on the line: her ranch, her safety, and this wild, fierce love. Really excited to get into this. That lady is an icon, and I love her take on historical romances. I know a lot of people have expressed kind of fear in going into the historical romance genre, especially with Black characters, and she takes such good care of these characters, y'all. So if you're gonna start anywhere, I highly recommend starting here. This is me catching up to a series that I've already started. I received an arc of this when it came out, and it was one that I just could not get to. I tried so hard, but I just couldn't get through it. Not that there was anything wrong with the book. I just had too much going on at the time. This is A Lethal Lady by Nekesa Afia, and this is book 3 in the Harlem Renaissance Mystery series. And I am so excited because so much changed with Louise in book 2. It was really bittersweet, truly. And we are taking Louise out of Harlem, and she is now across the seas. Louise Lloyd's time away in Paris is everything she was hoping it would be until a shocking murder turned her entire world upside down. I won't read too much of this because I don't want to give too many things away, because there is a lot that happens in both book 1 and book 2. Like I said, the ending of book 2 was really bittersweet. We got a lot of resolve, but we also had a lot of heartbreak in that book as well. So I can't wait to see where my girl Louise goes. I love her as an FMC. She is so perfectly imperfect. Representation, the time period, it's just a vibe. If you've been looking for another mystery to get into, I highly recommend, even though this does tread a little bit darker. It's not quite the cozy mystery that we're used to getting from Abby Collette. These do have darker themes to kind of represent the time period, so be aware, but these are phenomenal reads. I have been wanting to get into this author's writing. I actually have one of her books, but I feel like I'm not quite there yet. I'm not quite ready to start the one that I have. And so when I saw this in the library, I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and pick it up. They had Kindred. This is the first time I've seen any Octavia Butler in my library, so I went ahead and snatched her up. This was actually turned into a show, and I'm really angry with myself that I didn't get this cover before they came out with, you know, the TV covers and all of that. Dana, a 20th century Black woman, is celebrating her 26th birthday with her new husband when she is snatched from her home in California and transported to the antebellum South. Rufus, the white son of a plantation owner, is drowning, and Dana has been summoned to save him. Repeatedly drawn back through time, and with each stay growing longer and more perilous, Dana is forced to contend with the brutal legacy of slavery and white supremacy, not knowing if her life will end long before it has a chance to begin. The concept of this is just, yeah, I know that this book is going to have me in the trenches. So I will probably get to this around the end of the month because I really do need to focus on my Black romance readathon picks, and then we're also working on our book club pick of the month. So I will be getting into this at the end of the month. And I'm really excited to start this. And I'm hoping that once I get into that one, it will give me the courage to start Parable of the Sower. I was really excited to see this because so many of my bookish friends have recommended this to me. This is To Shape a Dragon's Breath by Moniquill Blackgoose. I'm hoping I'm saying the author's name correctly. This has been on my kind of like to be read wish list on StoryGraph for a hot minute. And so when I saw it, I was like, let me go ahead and grab it. A young indigenous woman enters a colonizer-run dragon academy and quickly finds herself at odds with the approved way of doing things, and the first book of a brilliant new fantasy series. Nekesa is smart, determined, and resolved to learn what she needs to help her dragon, even if it means teaching herself. The one thing she refuses to do, however, is become the meek English miss that everyone expects. Nekesa and her dragon may be coming of age, but they're also coming to power, and that brings an important realization. The world needs changing, and they might just be the ones to do it. Really excited to start this. This was recommended to me as an alternative to that other book. Y'all know the book. And so I'm really hyped to get into this. This feels like it's going to be so rich with culture. I'm going to have to sit down and kind of look at the names and make sure I can kind of navigate everything, but I'm really excited to get into this. We have Memphis. I have seen this book around quite a bit, but haven't picked it up. This is by Tara M. Stringfellow. And I feel like this is going to be a relatively quick read for me. The Things Women Do for the Sake of Their Daughters. Summer 1995, 10-year-old Joan, her mother and her younger sister flee her father's explosive temper and seek refuge at her mother's ancestral home in Memphis. This is not the first time violence has altered the course of the family's trajectory. Half a century earlier, Joan's grandfather built this majestic house in the historic Black neighborhood of Douglas, only to be lynched days after becoming the first Black homicide detective in the city. Joan tries to settle into her new life, but family secrets cast a longer shadow than any of them expected. As she grows up, Joan finds relief in her artwork, painting portraits of the community in Memphis. One of her subjects is their enigmatic neighbor, Miss Dawn, who claims to know something about curses, and whose stories about the past help Joan see how her passion, imagination, and relentless hope are, in fact, the continuation of a long matrilineal tradition. Joan begins to understand that her mother, her mother's mother, and the mothers before them persevered, made impossible choices, and put their dreams on hold so that her life would not have to be defined by loss and anger. That the sole instrument she needs for healing is her paintbrush. Unfolding over 70 years through a chorus of unforgettable voices that move back and forth in time, Memphis is an indelible portrait of inheritance, celebrating the full complexity of what we pass down in a family and as a country. Brutality and justice, faith and forgiveness, sacrifice and love. I can't wait to get into this. I really can't wait to get into it. It's giving ancestral legacy. It's giving a little bit of magical realism as well. Yeah. I've heard really phenomenal things about this book, and this just seemed right up my alley. So when I saw it sitting on the shelf at the library, I had to go ahead and pick her up. I received an arc of this at the beginning of the year, and I just was not ready to read it. I was so excited for it to come out when I saw that this book was going to be released. But at the same token, I was not fully prepared to get my feelings hurt the way the first book hurt my feelings. This is Isaac's Song by Daniel Black. If this sounds familiar, if you have heard of Daniel Black, he is the author of Don't Cry for Me, which came out, I believe, 2 years ago, maybe 3. This is kind of the counter voice to Don't Cry for Me. We had Don't Cry for Me, which was basically an open letter from a father to his son, who was at that point in the time no contact with his dad, and his dad was at the end of his life. And it was a reflection on his very open and blatant homophobia that he forced his son to live with throughout the years. This is the counter voice to that. Isaac is at a crossroads in his young life. Growing up in Missouri, the son of a caustic, hard-driving father, he was conditioned to suppress his artistic pursuits and physical desires. But now, in late 80s Chicago, Isaac has finally carved out a life of his own and built up the courage to seek out a community. Yet, just as he begins to embrace who he is, two social catalysts, the AIDS crisis and Rodney King's attack, collectively extinguish his hard-earned joy. At a therapist's encouragement, Isaac begins to write down his story. As he taps into his creative energy, he commences a journey back to his family, his ancestral home in Arkansas, and the inherited trauma of the past. But a surprise discovery will either unlock the truths he's seeking or threaten to derail the life he's fought so hard to claim. Poignant, sweeping, and luminously told, Isaac's song is a return to the beloved characters of Don't Cry for Me and a high watermark in the career of an award-winning author. I just know that this is going to be a satisfyingly painful read. We saw throughout Don't Cry for Me, Isaac growing up and discovering what he loved, discovering that he loved theater and dance. And his dad saw that as being too feminine. And it really caused a strain on their relationship. His dad found his passions to be embarrassing. And we see his father moving through that and trying and often failing to really open his eyes and think about where those feelings come from. Even from some very awful things that he had done at a very young age. These books are not for the faint of heart. They are heavy, and there are some points that get very, very dark. But they're really, really good. They're really good. So I'm excited to get into this, but I'm going to get into it at a time where I'm not like super hormonal and struggling, because I know this is going to hurt my feelings, but I also know that it will put me back together. I adore Daniel Black's writing, phenomenal author. So of course, when I saw this, I had to pick it up. All right, my loves, that is it for this library haul. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I am ready to be back in my library this summer. I'm going to be making a more conscious effort of going back to the library now that I really am back to reading more, and I think I am actually going to read the books that I pick up. So you guys let me know, have you been hitting up your libraries? I want to know. Make sure we're getting out there, make sure we're supporting our local libraries. They are very important fixtures in our communities, and we need to make sure that we keep them. All right, I love you guys so much. Thank you for pulling up for this video, and I shall see y'all in the next one.